Here is the testimonial of Professor Yemi Osinbajo, 8 years after being vice president, or after 8 years of being vice president of Nigeria. We recall that at the time the brigandage to hound out Jonathan was happening. And Buhari's credential as an extremist, religious bigot, champion of Boko Haram and its allies, was cause of anxiety in the land. And so the emergence of Yemi Osinbajo as a running mate became the immediate answer. Oh, pastor, professor of law, Christian. As vice president, that nobody will do anything untoward. 8 years after, where are we? Let us recall that it was Yemi Osinbajo that was saddled with the responsibility of peddling the lies, the many lies that were loaded on the head of Jonathan. Everything that went wrong, Osinbajo will mount the next rostrum to say, Jonathan stole the opportunity. Jonathan stole the money that should have been used. Lies that are known to him to be lies. We saw the Chibok girls. Jonathan was incompetent. They were all peddling it. The very people that orchestrated that kidnap are now heading to government house. If Nigeria ends up with such people mounting the saddle of political leadership at that pinnacle level, it will be because characters like Yemi Osinbajo was bearing false witness all over the place. When the terror that Buhari came to market began to unleash itself on all sides, some of us went to the international circuit to raise alarm that the terror networks of the Middle East, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the rest were converging in the West African sub-region and the Sahel, with Libya that's already gone bad and Sudan that was heading south. We went to Washington because at the time the US was at war with ISIS in Syria and Iraq. We went to alert those waging that war that those terror networks may be under heavy pressure and making their way into the West African sub-region with Nigeria as their hub, with the local franchise called Boko Haram, with which they were now merging to form the ISWAP that we've heard about. The US government took several months in 2019, from January to July of 2019. I had the privilege of leading the team on Capitol Hill, both in the House and in the Senate, and the International Religious Freedom Ministerial Roundtables of that year, where the issue was who was being killed where on religious, ethno-religious killings, more or less. And in the midst of that engagement, when some of the policy pronouncements began to more or less build up from the US side, the US and its allies, because we told them that if you do not stand up now and arrest the situation with the plan we have brought to you, because we came with this same plan that many of us have not yet examined, you are going to pay in blood. That was what we told the US. And in the midst of that engagement, Abuja dispatched Yemi Osinbajo to come to lie on their behalf that nobody was killing anybody, that people were just exaggerating little farmers and herders clash that was going on. And he actually came. I was in Washington. It was what I was doing that he had come to discredit, to tell them that, oh no, it cannot be so. Unfortunately for him, before he came, those who ought to know already listened and had proof of what even their own intelligence already had some evidence of what was going on. But we now came as witnesses. I'm sure many of us saw the pictures of those interactions in, on Capitol Hill. The victims themselves came. The mother of Leah Sharibu was there, and the Adara Kingdom chief people, the one they killed, El Rufai and co, found a way to get rid of. The victims of the terror were in Washington at the invitation of the US government to come to tell those who were interrogating the situation what they witnessed. So it's not a matter of hearsay. Who did you see? What happened? Oh, we were invaded. Who did you see in that invasion? They were Fulani herdsmen, as we know them, we recognize them when we said that. They were killing. What were they? They killed, they bombed, they burnt houses, they maimed, they cut people. So the US got first-hand information from the actual witnesses, not people who told others to come and tell. In the midst of all of that, Yemi Osinbajo turns up in Washington to come to say no such thing was going on, that it was merely climate change. And of course, he was called a shameless liar. The vice president of the US at the time, Mike Pence, you pastor, you Christian, professor of law, they are killing your people, Yoruba, they are killing your Yoruba people. And they asked you to come to tell us that it's not happening. You forgot that it's our satellite that Nigeria is lashing onto in the fight is engaging in, if there's any fight. Long and short of it is that he was called a liar, a shameless liar. Again, coming to bear false witness. Not quite 2-3 weeks after he came back, the daughter of the Afenifere leader, Chief Reuben Fashoranti, was murdered. Of course, his principal was quick to go to say that, yes, where are the cows of the people who were arrested? That is not Fulani herdsmen that killed. False witness. Yemi Osinbajo at the center. When it came to when they started looting the treasury in the name of arresting poverty that has now grown so deep, he was the one that was given money to go and share in the open marketplace, trader money, and he was happy to be given. Have we become an Amajiri? Have we become an Amajiri economy? That people who ought to be reworking the frame of the framework of the economy to get people into productive activity were now taking money from the treasury with no database for who they were going to give, and then just frittering away billions in the name of money you insert into people's hands in open market, poor people, insulting them further with the paltry sums they were given out. Why is it Osinbajo that will be put in charge of such a shameful economic revival strategy? Where are we now? Poverty has now relocated its headquarters, global headquarters, trader money. Not long after, allegations began to fly when the time to go and contest for who will become a candidate. Of course, it became skeleton in the cupboard that had to be used to contain. The same Yemi Osinbajo was the one that was used to go to launch what they call the national livestock, whatever. At the time, the rest of us were struggling to block the Ruga that was being pushed by the Fulani agenda headed by Buhari. They say, oh no, national livestock. He went to launch it on their behalf. Of course, it collapsed because nobody will give them land. Anything that had to do with giving out land for Fulani to come to rear cow or live there exclusively, people were mobilized to reject it. But it was Yemi Osinbajo that went to launch that pretense on their behalf. It failed. Then he turns up again to talk about when they were going to census, in their desperation to dump the Fulani that had come from all over the Sahel on Nigeria as official part of their population. They advertised census that will cost almost 1 trillion to execute, but to be done in the period they were in charge. In an election year, election was already in terrible controversy. Then you want to bring census. If not that we countermanded all of those, the amendments they tried to do, if not that Ninas had to find a way to countermand those activities, we probably would have ended up with both the Ruga and the census that would document as indigents the Fulani that had come from everywhere, wielding guns in our farms and forests. It was the same Osinbajo that raised his voice on their behalf to say that the census should now, that Nigeria should move away from state of origin to a certificate of residence. What does that mean? He was trying to make provision for how the Fulani that cannot point at their father's land inside Nigeria will become documented like every other person after killing people to come in. Pantami is there holding the database that will be used to ratify everything. Why is it Osinbajo that will be used to all these years? Let us count let us have an accurate census so that we can plan. No. They will do census, there will be no ethnicity, no religion referred to, so that they can continue to, do extrapolation from the wrong premises of many decades. What else, is there to say about this fellow that goes about bearing false witness? When we raised the issue of Fulani agenda, the same Osinbajo was the one that, shouted that it was apartheid. He did not see the apartheid of what the Fulani was doing to exclude other people. But when they were called out, Osinbajo was their defense to say, oh, it's apartheid against them. It's a great pity that Yemi Osinbajo will lend himself to the kind of use to bear witness, false witness all through 8 years, aiding corruption, aiding the killings, because when you go to say that there were no killings going on, you were aiding. Your principal was doing the killing, you were bearing witness on the international circuit because you were to be, you had integrity to offer, integrity of pastor, integrity of Christian, integrity of professor of law. It's a pity, but that is the testimonial of Yemi Osinbajo, Vice President of Nigeria, 2015-2023. We stop there.